Through the endless void of space, a legend was born from ashes of defeat. Betrayed by allies, hunted by enemies, one warrior will rise against impossible odds. Witness the birth of a galactic hero as empires collide and ancient prophecies unfold. From the depths of despair to the heights of glory, this is a journey that will change the fate of the universe forever. Subscribe now to experience the epic saga that will keep you on the edge of your seat. In the year 3124, humanity had spread across the stars like wildfire, establishing colonies on distant worlds and forging alliances with countless alien species. Captain Cale Draven stood on the observation deck of the battleship Invincible Dawn, watching the swirling nebula outside the viewport. His jet-black hair, streaked with silver at the temples, framed a face hardened by years of conflict. The scars on his left cheek told stories of battles fought and won. But tonight, something felt different in the air. The ship's artificial gravity hummed softly beneath his boots as he reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Dominion, a ruthless empire bent on galactic conquest, had been amassing forces near the Orion border. Their crimson warships, each larger than small moons, cast ominous shadows across nearby systems. Cale's fingers traced the edge of his holopad, where images of devastated colonies flickered to life, silent testimony to the Dominion's growing power. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Commander Sira Ven, approached silently. Her blue skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that shifted with her emotions, currently pulsing in agitated waves of violet and indigo. "Captain," she began, her voice carrying the musical cadence of her aquatic ancestors. "The Council has made their decision. They want us to hold position at the frontier." Her eyes, pools of liquid silver, betrayed her frustration. Cale turned to face her, his piercing gaze reflecting years of command. "And let them gather strength while we wait? No, we need to strike first before they can consolidate their forces." He moved to the tactical display, where holographic representations of star systems floated like jewels in the air. "Look at this pattern. They're not just expanding randomly. There's a method to their madness. If we don't act soon..." But the political ramifications. Sira started, only to be cut off by the sudden blare of warning klaxons. Red emergency lights bathed the observation deck in their urgent glow as the ship's AI announced an incoming transmission from High Command. Cale's heart sank as he recognized the seal of the Galactic Council flashing across the main view screen. High Admiral Thorne's stern face materialized above the tactical table, his expression grave. "Captain Draven, we have received disturbing intelligence. The Dominion has discovered the location of the Archeon Gate." The room seemed to drop several degrees as the implications sank in. The ancient Stargate, capable of instant travel between galaxies, had been humanity's greatest discovery and its most closely guarded secret. "By the stars," Cale whispered, his mind racing through the possibilities. If the Dominion gained control of the Archeon Gate, they could project their forces anywhere in known space within moments. Entire sectors would fall before the Allied fleets could respond. He gripped the edge of the table, knuckles whitening as scenarios played out in his mind. "We've dispatched reinforcements," Admiral Thorne continued, "but they won't arrive for at least 3 standard days. You and your crew are the closest battle-ready force. This falls to you, Captain." The weight of the galaxy seemed to settle on Cale's shoulders as the transmission ended. He turned to see his senior officers gathered around the table, their faces etched with determination and fear. Sira moved closer, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to calming shades of green. "We can do this, Cale. The Invincible Dawn is the most advanced warship in the fleet, and we have the best crew." Her words carried conviction, but Cale noticed the slight tremor in her usually steady voice. They both knew what was at stake are not just their lives, but the future of countless worlds. "Lieutenant," Cale addressed his tactical officer, "plot us a course to the Archeon system, maximum safe speed. Commander Ven, prepare the ground assault teams." If the Dominion has already established a foothold near the gate, he let the thought hang in the air as the bridge crew sprang into action. The hum of the ship's engines grew louder as they prepared to jump to FTL speed. As Kale watched his crew work with practiced efficiency, memories of past battles flooded his mind. The siege of Proxima, where he'd lost half his squadron. The desperate defense of New Terra against overwhelming odds. Each victory had come at a cost, and now another impossible challenge lay ahead. But this time felt different, more personal, somehow. The transition to FTL space always created strange optical effects outside the viewports, but today they seemed particularly unstable. Kale studied the swirling colors beyond the reinforced glass, noting unusual gravitational distortions that shouldn't exist this far from any significant mass. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Marquez, approached with an update, his youthful face lined with concern beneath his regulation cap. "Sir, long-range sensors are picking up something unusual. Energy readings consistent with Dominion technology, but magnified exponentially. It's like nothing we've encountered before." Marquez manipulated his holopad, bringing up streams of data that danced across their shared field of vision. Kale's trained eye caught patterns that set alarm bells ringing in his mind. "Sira," he called, motioning his second-in-command closer. "Remember those anomalies we detected during the Cerberus campaign?" She nodded, her bioluminescent markings flickering in recognition. "This feels similar, but on a much larger scale. Whatever the Dominion is doing out there, it's bigger than just securing the Archeon Gate." His mind raced through possible explanations: experimental weapons, new forms of spatial manipulation, or perhaps something even more sinister. The ship's science officer, Dr. Alara Chun, joined their discussion, her augmented reality glasses projecting complex equations and spectral analyses. "Captain, if these readings are accurate, we might be witnessing a fundamental alteration of local spacetime. The energy signatures suggest they're attempting to create some kind of stable wormhole network." Her voice carried the excitement of scientific discovery tinged with professional concern. Kale processed this information while observing his crew's reactions. Veterans like Chief Engineer Rourke maintained stoic professionalism, while newer recruits exchanged nervous glances. The tension was palpable, thick enough to taste. He activated the ship-wide communication system, his voice steady despite the growing unease in his gut. "All hands, maintain battle stations. Whatever we're facing, we'll meet it head-on, together." As the invincible dawn hurtled through folded space toward destiny, Kale couldn't shake the feeling that they were being drawn into something far beyond conventional warfare. The pieces of the puzzle refused to align, suggesting either unprecedented Dominion technological breakthroughs or something else entirely. Something ancient and powerful, waiting to be unleashed upon an unsuspecting galaxy. The emergence from FTL brought chaos rather than clarity. Warning sirens screamed through the invincible dawn as multiple impact alarms triggered simultaneously. Through the main viewport, Kale witnessed a sight that defied military logic or Dominion warships arranged not in standard attack formation, but in a complex geometric pattern that pulsed with eerie purple energy. The ships themselves appeared wrong, their hulls distorting space around them like heat waves over desert sands. "Report," Kale barked, gripping the command railing as the ship shuddered from an energy discharge that hadn't come from any visible source. Lieutenant Marquez's fingers flew across his console, reading data streams that seemed to contradict themselves. "Sir, the Dominion vessels are generating some kind of interference field. Our targeting systems are offline, and I'm reading temporal disturbances throughout the sector." Chief Engineer Rourke's voice crackled over the comms. "Captain, our quantum core is destabilizing. Whatever they're doing out there is affecting our zero-point energy containment fields." The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated, sending loose objects floating momentarily before crashing back down. Kale watched as his crew struggled to maintain their posts, their training competing against primal instincts screaming at them to flee from the unnatural phenomena surrounding them. Sira worked feverishly at her station, her bioluminescent patterns cycling rapidly through warning colors. "Kale, the Archeon Gate is active, but it's not behaving normally. The energy signature matches ancient texts about dimensional rifts." Her revelation sent a chill through the bridge crew. Dimensional technology had been banned galaxy-wide after the Cataclysm Wars, yet here it was, resurrected and amplified beyond anything previously documented. Dr. Chen's augmented reality displays filled with cascading error messages as she attempted to analyze the phenomenon. The temporal distortions are creating paradoxical feedback loops. I'm detecting echoes of events that haven't happened yet, possible futures branching off like tree roots. Her voice carried the detached fascination of a scientist observing the impossible, until a particularly violent energy surge rocked the ship, nearly knocking her off her feet. Kale's tactical mind struggled to process the situation. Every instinct screamed at him to engage or retreat, but neither option seemed viable against an enemy wielding physics itself as a weapon. The Dominion fleet remained frustratingly passive, maintaining their geometric formation while their mysterious technology warped reality around them. "Marquez, get me high command. Now." The lieutenant's response came quickly, but it wasn't what anyone wanted to hear. "Communication systems are down, sir. Whatever's happening out there is isolating us. We're on our own." The young officer's usual confidence wavered, replaced by the stark realization that they faced something beyond their understanding or capabilities. Kale scanned his bridge crew, seeing the same mixture of fear and determination reflected in every face. The coming confrontation wouldn't be decided by superior firepower or clever tactics. It would require something more fundamental: the courage to face the unknown. Kale paced the length of the command deck, his mind racing faster than the ship's quantum processors. The Dominion fleet's passive aggression represented a calculated risk. They weren't attacking because they didn't need to. Whatever technology they employed was systematically dismantling their opponent's capabilities without firing a single shot. The Invincible Dawn systems continued to degrade, with critical functions dropping offline one by one. "Lieutenant Commander," Kale addressed Sierra, his voice low but carrying authority, "assemble the senior staff in the war room. We need to think differently about this." As his second-in-command relayed the order, he activated the ship's internal security feeds. Crew members moved with purpose through the corridors, their expressions reflecting determined professionalism despite the growing crisis. Yet beneath the surface, he could sense the creeping doubt that threatened morale. In the war room, holographic displays flickered erratically as Dr. Chan attempted to stabilize their imaging systems. "Captain, based on current degradation rates, we have approximately 6 hours before complete system failure." Her analysis drew sharp intakes of breath from the assembled officers. Chief Engineer Rourke added, "Without functioning containment fields, the quantum core becomes a liability. Recommend manual shutdown procedures." Kale studied the faces around the table, seasoned veterans like Rourke whose years of service showed in weathered features. Younger officers like Marquez, whose idealism still burned bright despite the dire circumstances. Specialists like Dr. Chun, whose scientific curiosity battled with survival instincts. Each brought unique strengths to the table, but traditional military strategy offered no solutions here. "Sierra," he began, tracing a finger along the edge of the tactical display, "your people have legends about dimensional beings. Could this technology be?" He hesitated, aware of how absurd it sounded. But the blue-skinned commander nodded slowly, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to contemplative hues. Ancient texts speak of entities that existed between dimensions. Some believed they were gods, others thought them predators. The room fell silent as the implications settled. If the Dominion had somehow tapped into such forces, conventional warfare would prove futile. Kale straightened, making a decision. "We need to understand what we're dealing with. Prepare an away team, volunteers only. We're going aboard one of their ships." Murmurs of protest rippled through the room, but he silenced them with a raised hand. "Our technology is failing us. Perhaps direct observation will provide answers." As officers scrambled to organize the mission, Kale allowed himself a moment of reflection. Humanity had always prided itself on its technological superiority, its ability to conquer through innovation and force of will. Now, facing an enemy that wielded reality itself as a weapon, he understood the true meaning of humility in the face of the unknown. The coming hours would test not just their courage, but their ability to adapt to threats beyond comprehension. The shuttle bay echoed with the sounds of preparation as Kale personally oversaw the outfitting of the away team. Volunteers had stepped forward without hesitation, testament to their training and dedication, though Kale suspected adrenaline and duty played equal parts in their decisions. Among them stood Sergeant Tarkhan, the reptilian heavy weapons specialist whose armored scales reflected the harsh lighting, Lieutenant Marquez, whose technical expertise might prove invaluable, and surprisingly, Dr. Chun, whose scientific curiosity apparently outweighed self-preservation instincts. Remember, Kale addressed the group as technicians checked their environment suits. We're not looking for a fight. Our objective is intel. He locked eyes with each member, conveying both confidence and caution. If things go south, we stick together and make for the extraction point.
No heroics.
The slight emphasis on the last word earned a guilty look from Marquez, whose tendency toward dramatic solutions was well documented. As they boarded the modified stealth shuttle, Kale took inventory of their equipment. Standard-issue plasma rifles had been supplemented with prototype EMP devices, theoretical counters to the Dominion's temporal technology. Portable quantum stabilizers hung from each team member's belt, their blinking indicators providing small comfort against the possibility of being erased from existence. The shuttle's pilot, a veteran named Reese, ran final checks on the cloaking system. Their approach to the nearest Dominion vessel revealed unsettling details. The ship's surface appeared organic rather than metallic, pulsing faintly with the same purple energy that permeated the sector. Tentacle-like appendages extended from the hull, writhing in patterns that suggested purpose rather than random movement. Those weren't there during initial scans, Marquez whispered, his voice carrying over the comms despite attempts to mask it. The shuttle docked in what appeared to be a maintenance bay, though nothing about the architecture suggested human or known alien design. Walls flowed like liquid metal, reforming constantly while maintaining structural integrity. Air composition readings proved breathable, though laced with trace elements that set off warning flags in Dr. Chen's analyzers. Energy patterns are increasing, she reported, her augmented reality glasses projecting streams of data. Like the ship knows we're here. Kale led the way into the corridor, his weapon ready but lowered. The temperature fluctuated wildly, alternating between Arctic cold and searing heat within seconds. Gravity shifted unpredictably, forcing the team to adjust their movements constantly. Bioluminescent patterns on the walls pulsed in rhythm with distant mechanical sounds, whirring gears combined with organic squelches that defied easy categorization. Movement ahead, Tarkhan rumbled, his enhanced vision cutting through the dim light. Shadowy figures darted at the edge of visibility, humanoid but distorted, their forms shimmering like mirages. Kale signaled for silence, his heart pounding against his ribcage. The Dominion had transformed their soldiers too, merging them with whatever alien technology they'd uncovered. This wasn't just conquest anymore, it was evolution forced upon an unwilling species. The shadowy figures coalesced into solid forms as they approached, revealing Dominion troops unlike any encountered before. Their armor seemed grown rather than manufactured, organic tendrils connecting them to the ship itself. Weapons integrated seamlessly with their bodies, energy weapons that pulsed with the same unnatural light as the vessel's exterior. Kale's team pressed against the curved wall, their presence still undetected in the dim passageway. These aren't just soldiers, Dr. Chin breathed, her instruments recording data at maximum capacity. They're part of the ship. Look at the neural connections. Indeed, thin filaments extended from the backs of the Dominion troopers' necks, merging with the living walls. Their movements lacked individuality, flowing in perfect synchronization as if controlled by a single consciousness. Kale signaled for the team to move deeper into the ship, seeking less populated areas. The corridors twisted impossibly, angles bending in ways that defied Euclidean geometry. Time itself seemed to stretch and compress, 10 minutes passing in what felt like seconds, then hours dragging during brief transitions between sections. Marquez's chronometer spun erratically, forcing the young lieutenant to disable it to prevent triggering anxiety attacks. This technology isn't just advanced. Syrah communicated through secure channels, having remained aboard the Invincible Dawn to coordinate support. It's fundamentally altering the laws of physics within localized space. The longer we stay, the greater the risk of permanent temporal displacement. Her warning came as Kale observed a section of wall ripple outward, forming what appeared to be viewing portals showing scenes from other locations within the ship, or perhaps other times. The team discovered what appeared to be a central chamber, dominated by a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with concentrated energy. Around it floated dozens of Dominion scientists, their bodies suspended in stasis fields while their minds interfaced directly with the construct. Data streamed through the air in visible waves, complex mathematical formulas and genetic sequences dancing like fireflies. Dr. Chen's instruments went haywire, recording phenomena that challenged everything modern science understood about matter and energy. "Captain," Marquez whispered urgently, pointing to a series of symbols etched into the crystal. "These match ancient Terran artifacts from pre-human civilizations. Someone found Earth thousands of years ago and left instructions." His voice cracked with the weight of discovery. Before Kale could respond, the entire chamber shuddered, and the crystalline structure emitted a low hum that vibrated through their very bones. Tarkin's enhanced hearing picked up approaching footsteps, many of them. The away team retreated into a narrow maintenance tunnel, watching as a procession of Dominion commanders entered the chamber. Their leader bore unmistakable cybernetic enhancements, but something about his presence suggested more than mere augmentation. When he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that resonated through the ship's structure itself. "The convergence approaches," the commander declared, his words translated through universal translators that struggled to process the multi-layered speech. "Soon, all barriers shall fall, and the architects shall walk among us once more." The revelation sent chills through Kale's spine. The Dominion wasn't merely seeking power. They were attempting to resurrect ancient beings whose very existence threatened the fabric of reality itself. Kale's mind raced as he processed the commander's words. The term architects resonated with classified archives he'd accessed during his early career, ancient beings theorized to have seeded life across the galaxy before mysteriously disappearing. Most scholars dismissed them as myth, but now evidence suggested otherwise. The crystalline structure pulsed stronger, its light casting eerie shadows that seemed to move independently of their sources. "Lieutenant," Kale whispered to Marquez, "record everything. If we don't make it back, someone needs to know what we've found." The young officer nodded, his hands trembling slightly as he adjusted recording equipment. Dr. Chen's augmented reality displays filled with cascading data streams, her breath quickening as she processed implications that defied scientific understanding. The energy signatures, they're rewriting physical constants. Space-time itself is becoming malleable. The Dominion commander continued his address, oblivious to the hidden observers. Floating holograms materialized around him, displaying timelines that branched and merged in complex patterns. Some showed victorious Dominion fleets, others depicted apocalyptic scenarios where entire star systems collapsed into dimensional singularities. "The architects promise transcendence," he declared, his voice carrying religious fervor. "Through their return, we shall shed our mortal limitations and become something greater." Tarkin's scales rippled with agitation, his reptilian physiology reacting to the unnatural energies saturating the chamber. "Captain," he growled softly, "this place, it's alive, feeding on us." His enhanced senses detected subtle changes in the team's vital signs, accelerated aging processes, cellular degradation occurring at alarming rates. Even through their protective suits, the environment was affecting them on a fundamental level. Kale's tactical mind processed options, each worse than the last. Direct confrontation would be suicidal against enemies who could manipulate reality itself. Retreat meant abandoning crucial intelligence about an existential threat to the galaxy. Staying put guaranteed eventual detection and capture. His comm unit crackled with static before Syrah's voice broke through, barely audible over electromagnetic interference. "Kale, the invincible dawn is deteriorating faster than expected. Quantum core instability reaching critical levels." The revelation forced his hand. "New plan," he whispered to his team. "We need to plant EMP devices at key points, Disrupt their systems long enough to escape and transmit our findings. Dr. Chun immediately began calculating optimal placement, her fingers flying across holographic interfaces despite the growing temporal distortions. Marquez prepared the devices, their casings glowing with contained energy that seemed to resist the surrounding chaos. As they coordinated their sabotage attempt, Kale observed the Dominion Commander interface directly with the crystalline structure. Thin filaments extended from his temples, connecting him to the alien technology. His body convulsed as knowledge poured into his mind, his enhanced physiology struggling to contain the influx of forbidden information. The other Dominion personnel watched with reverence, their cybernetic augmentations pulsing in sync with their leader's transformation. This isn't just technology, Kale realized aloud, keeping his voice barely above a whisper. They're evolving themselves to handle the architect's return, preparing vessels for gods. The magnitude of their discovery weighed heavily on the team. If the Dominion succeeded, they wouldn't just conquer the galaxy. They would redefine existence itself, potentially destroying everything familiar in the process. The away team split into pairs, moving through the increasingly unstable corridors with practiced precision. Kale partnered with Tarkon, their combined combat experience proving invaluable as the ship's structure continued its bizarre transformations. Walls flowed like liquid mercury, occasionally manifesting faces that screamed silently before dissolving back into the metal. Gravity fluctuations intensified, forcing them to use magnetic boots to maintain footing. Marquez and Dr. Chun worked their way toward the engineering section, guided by erratic sensor readings that suggested vulnerable points in the ship's dimensional matrix. Their progress was hampered by increasing temporal distortions, moments stretching into eternity while seconds vanished without notice. The doctor's instruments recorded phenomena that defied explanation. Particles existing in multiple states simultaneously, miniature black holes forming and collapsing within milliseconds. Back in the central chamber, the Dominion commander's transformation accelerated. His body contorted unnaturally as he absorbed more of the crystalline entity's knowledge. Purple veins pulsed beneath his skin, spreading across his form in intricate patterns that matched the ship's energy signatures. "The threshold approaches," he declared, his voice now layered with multiple harmonics that caused physical pain to anyone nearby. "Prepare for ascension." Kale's team planted the first EMP device near a convergence node where multiple energy streams intersected. The device's casing hummed with contained power, its quantum dampeners straining against the surrounding temporal chaos. "That should buy us some time," Tarkon rumbled, his enhanced vision detecting minute fractures forming in the ship's dimensional barriers. "But not much. This place is falling apart faster than predicted." Syrah's voice crackled through their comms, breaking through increasing interference. "Captain, we're detecting massive energy buildup near your position. The entire ship is destabilizing." Her warning came as sections of corridor began collapsing into pockets of non-space, creating voids that swallowed everything nearby. Emergency bulkheads sealed automatically, trapping portions of the away team in isolated sections. Dr. Chen's analytical mind struggled to process the cascade of impossible data. "The Dominion's tampering has created a feedback loop," she explained, her voice tight with urgency. "Each attempt to stabilize creates new instabilities, like trying to plug holes in a dam with your fingers while the water pressure keeps increasing." Her instruments recorded reality itself unraveling at the molecular level, atoms losing cohesion as fundamental forces broke down. In the central chamber, the crystalline structure pulsed erratically, its light strobing through the spectrum at dangerous frequencies. The Dominion personnel, now fully integrated with their ship, began shedding their physical forms. Their bodies dissolved into streams of pure energy that fed back into the growing anomaly. The commander remained partially corporeal, his face contorted in ecstasy as he became something beyond human comprehension. Kale made a snap decision. "Change of plans. We need to trigger the EMP devices manually and get out now." His voice carried the weight of command, overriding protests from his team. "If this thing goes critical, it could tear a hole in space-time big enough to swallow entire star systems." The realization galvanized them into action, each member understanding the stakes far exceeded their personal survival. The countdown began as Kale coordinated the simultaneous detonation of EMP devices. His team worked furiously against mounting obstacles, collapsing corridors, temporal distortions that played havoc with timing, and the ever-present danger of being absorbed into the growing dimensional rift. The ship itself seemed to resist their efforts, organic passages sealing shut or redirecting them into increasingly unstable areas. Device 3 is in position, Marquez reported. His voice strained as he fought against gravity shifts that threatened to send him floating into a nearby void. But the timer's malfunctioning. I'll have to trigger it manually. Dr. Chen's instruments confirmed the growing instability in that sector, warning lights flashing across her augmented reality displays. Make it quick, Lieutenant. That section's barely holding together. Tarkon and Kale reached the primary convergence node, finding their path blocked by transformed Dominion guards whose bodies now existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their weapons phased in and out of reality, making them nearly impossible targets. The reptilian sergeant's enhanced reflexes proved crucial as he used his bulk to shield Kale while planting the final device. 3 minutes, Tarkon growled, his scales shimmering as reality itself fluctuated around them. Back in the central chamber, the crystalline structure had expanded dramatically, its light now visible from external views. The Dominion commander floated within its core, his remaining physical form dissolving into pure energy. The architects come, he broadcast telepathically, his thoughts penetrating even their shielded comms. Witness the dawn of a new order. The declaration came as shockwaves rippled through the ship, causing bulkheads to buckle and emergency systems to overload. Syrah's voice cut through the chaos. Captain, the Invincible Dawn is experiencing critical failures across all systems. We can't maintain position much longer. Her report coincided with multiple proximity alerts as sections of the Dominion fleet began collapsing into themselves, creating temporary wormholes that threatened to drag nearby vessels into dimensional limbo. The entire sector became a maelstrom of displaced matter and fractured spacetime. Kale transmitted final coordinates for extraction, knowing some of his team might not make it back. Execute Phase 2, he ordered, initiating the EMP sequence. The devices pulsed with synchronized energy, their quantum disruption fields momentarily overpowering the Dominion's dimensional technology. Reality snapped back into focus with painful clarity, gravity stabilizing just long enough for escape routes to open. Go! Kale shouted, pushing Tarkon toward the nearest exit as the central chamber began imploding. Streams of raw energy poured from the crystalline structure, threatening to breach containment. The Dominion commander's final scream echoed through the ship's structure, carrying both triumph and terror as he completed his transformation. Behind them, the convergence node detonated in a burst of temporal energy that rippled through the fabric of space itself. The evacuation became a race against unraveling reality. Corridors twisted and buckled as the Dominion ship's dimensional matrix collapsed inward. Kale and Tarkon sprinted through passages that folded back on themselves, their magnetic boots struggling to maintain traction on surfaces that shifted between solid and liquid states. The EMP blast had bought them precious minutes, but the ship's death throes accelerated with terrifying speed. Marquez and Dr. Chan emerged from a collapsing maintenance tunnel, their suits scorched from close encounters with erupting energy conduits. 2 minutes to total collapse, Chen reported, her instruments registering catastrophic energy surges that threatened to tear the vessel apart at the subatomic level. Her augmented reality displays flickered madly, unable to process the sheer volume of anomalous data flooding their sensors. Ahead, the docking bay had transformed into a nightmarish landscape of floating debris and gravity wells. The modified stealth shuttle waited, its cloaking system flickering as the surrounding space-time distortion interfered with its quantum stabilizers. Pilot Reese worked frantically to maintain engine readiness, sweat beading on his forehead despite the climate-controlled environment. I can give you 30 seconds of thrust before the core destabilizes, he warned over comms. Dominion crew members, now fully transformed into energy-based entities, drifted through the chaos. Their forms pulsed with dying light as they attempted to complete their metamorphosis before the ship's final destruction. Some reached out toward the fleeing humans, their touch causing equipment to short-circuit and reality to warp dangerously. Kale's team fired warning shots, their weapons' energy blasts interacting unpredictably with the altered physics of the environment. Tarkon, cover the rear, Kale ordered as they approached the shuttle. The reptilian sergeant's heavy weapons roared to life, creating temporary stability zones by disrupting the dimensional distortions. Each blast bought precious seconds as the team closed the distance to safety. Behind them, the central chamber's implosion accelerated, creating a singularity that began consuming the ship from within. The crystalline structure's final detonation sent shockwaves through the vessel, its light show illuminating the docking bay in strobing pulses of lethal radiation. Syrah's voice crackled through fading comms. "Captain, we're detecting subspace ruptures forming throughout the sector. Get out now or you'll be trapped when the dimensional barriers collapse completely." Her warning came as the shuttle's boarding ramp lowered, revealing Chief Engineer Rourke armed with portable quantum stabilizers. 10 seconds, Reese shouted, his hands flying across the flight controls. The team dove into the shuttle as gravity failed completely, their momentum carrying them through the reduced gravity environment. Kale hit the bulkhead hard, rolling to avoid impacting critical systems. "Seal it up. Let's go," he barked, watching through the viewport as the Dominion ship's structure began dissolving into pure energy. As the shuttle's engines ignited, space itself seemed to tear open behind them. The singularity expanded rapidly, pulling debris and escaping Dominion entities into its maw. The invincible dawn loomed ahead, its own systems straining against the sector-wide distortions. "Full burn," Kale ordered, watching as reality itself began unraveling in their wake. The last glimpse of the Dominion vessel showed its commander, now a being of pure energy, reaching toward them with a gesture that could have been blessing or curse. The Invincible Dawn's docking bay welcomed them with chaotic urgency as emergency teams scrambled to secure the damaged shuttle. Kale staggered from the craft, his body protesting the cumulative effects of dimensional exposure and adrenaline crash. Medical personnel rushed forward, but he waved them off, focusing instead on the main viewport where the Dominion ship's final moments played out in spectacular fashion. The vessel imploded in a cascade of temporal energy, creating a shockwave that rippled through local spacetime. Quantum core containment at 45% and falling, Rourke reported from engineering, his voice carrying over ship-wide comms. "Structural integrity fields holding, but not for long if that shockwave hits us full force." The crew worked with desperate efficiency, rerouting power and reinforcing critical systems while the ship shuddered under increasing stress. Dr. Chun supervised damage control efforts, her scientific expertise proving invaluable as reality itself seemed to fray at the edges. Syrah coordinated defensive maneuvers from the bridge, her bioluminescent patterns cycling through rapid tactical calculations. Multiple subspace ruptures forming throughout the sector. "We need to plot an escape vector that avoids the worst of the distortions." Her hands danced across control interfaces, plotting courses that accounted for both physical and temporal hazards. The ship's navigational computers struggled to process the constantly shifting parameters of local spacetime. The Dominion fleet, or what remained of it, began disintegrating as their dimensional technology failed catastrophically. Ships exploded in bursts of antimatter energy, their crews presumably completing their transformations into energy-based entities. Kale watched grimly as the crystalline structures aboard surviving vessels pulsed erratically, threatening to create additional singularities. The architect's influence, though thwarted here, had already spread too far to contain easily. "All hands, brace for impact." Kale's voice cut through the organized chaos as the temporal shockwave finally reached them. The ship groaned in protest as reality bent and flexed around its hull. Structural members creaked under impossible stresses while quantum stabilizers fought to maintain cohesive existence. In the engineering bay, Rourke and his team worked miracles with jury-rigged solutions, preventing total system failure by mere fractions of a percentage point. Through the viewport, space itself seemed to tear open in places, revealing glimpses of other realities bleeding through the dimensional barriers. Stars stretched and compressed like liquid paint, their light distorted by waves of temporal energy. The invincible Dawn fought against these forces with everything it had. Its advanced systems pushed far beyond design tolerances. Kale clung to a support strut, watching as his crew demonstrated why they were considered the best in the fleet. "We're clear of the main shockwave," Syrah announced after what felt like an eternity. "But the sector remains highly unstable. Recommend immediate jump to safe coordinates." Her recommendation came as multiple proximity alerts sounded, warning of subspace ruptures forming dangerously close to their position. The ship's artificial intelligence, though degraded by dimensional exposure, still managed to calculate a viable escape vector through the chaos. As the invincible Dawn limped through folded space, its systems running on minimal power to conserve what little stability remained, Kale convened his senior staff in the war room. Holographic displays flickered erratically, but the data they presented painted a grim picture. Multiple star systems showed signs of dimensional contamination, their spacetime matrices compromised by the Dominion's experiments. Colonies on the frontier reported bizarre phenomena, objects appearing in impossible locations, people experiencing déjà vu on a massive scale, entire facilities vanishing only to reappear elsewhere. Dr. Chun presented her findings, her usually composed demeanor shaken by the implications. The Dominion's technology didn't just tap into dimensional energies, it created ripples that continue to propagate. Every affected system shows signs of ongoing reality destabilization. If we don't contain this, she let the thought hang, knowing everyone understood the potential consequences. The galaxy faced not just invasion, but the literal unraveling of existence itself. Syrah's intelligence reports painted an equally troubling picture. Surviving Dominion forces had regrouped under new leadership, their transformation into hybrid entities accelerating. "They're calling themselves the Ascended now," she explained, her bioluminescent patterns darkening with concern. "Their communications suggest they've made contact with something older. Ancient signals matching descriptions of the architects have been detected emanating from uncharted space." The revelation sent a collective shiver through the assembled officers. Kale studied the data streams, his tactical mind processing implications that went beyond conventional warfare. "We need to warn the Council," he stated, though his tone suggested he held little hope for bureaucratic solutions. "But more importantly, we need to find where the Dominion made first contact. Stop this at its source before it spreads further." His words carried the weight of command, backed by the knowledge that time itself might be running out. Rourke reported on the ship's condition, his engineering team working around the clock to repair quantum damage. "We've patched the worst of it, but the core's still unstable. Another encounter with that kind of energy, and we might not survive." His assessment highlighted the precarious nature of their situation, damaged and vulnerable, yet carrying knowledge that could save or doom countless worlds. The meeting concluded with assignments that reflected the gravity of their mission. Teams prepared to document everything they'd witnessed, creating contingency plans for containing dimensional outbreaks. Scientists worked on developing countermeasures against reality-altering technology, while tactical officers simulated engagement scenarios against enemies who could bend physics to their will. Throughout the ship, crew members moved with renewed purpose, understanding that their actions might determine the fate of an entire galaxy on the brink of fundamental change. The council chamber on New Terra buzzed with tension as Kale presented his findings. Holographic projections displayed the collected evidence footage from the Dominion ship, sensor readings of reality distortions, and Dr. Chen's comprehensive analysis of the dimensional technology. High-ranking officials shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their usual diplomatic masks cracking under the weight of revelations that challenged everything they understood about the universe. Admiral Thorne listened intently, his weathered face betraying both skepticism and concern. "You're suggesting we face not just an enemy fleet, but an existential threat to reality itself?" His question carried the weight of centuries of military tradition struggling to comprehend a new paradigm of warfare. Kale nodded, his stance unwavering despite the gravity of his words. The Dominion's pursuit of the architects isn't just ambition, it's a fundamental shift in what it means to exist. If they succeed, everything we know could be rewritten at a fundamental level. Debate erupted across the chamber, representatives from various species arguing the merits of immediate military response versus cautious investigation. Syrah stood beside Kale, her bioluminescent patterns signaling support while translating real-time data into terms that resonated with different cultural perspectives. The contamination is spreading, she emphasized. Every day we delay increases the number of systems affected. Soon, it might not be just the frontier at risk. Amidst the chaos, a junior analyst approached with new intelligence deep space probes had